on blast.
We're going to finish 2020, the longest decade of my life, off on the right note. We're coming back with the challenge. Double Agents. I'm John Sheldon.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is the much requested preview episode of You Killed It, the podcast, talking about the challenge, the upcoming season of Double Agents, which comes out this Wednesday.
Yep, that is Wednesday, December 9th. Don't you dare miss it. But before you check that out, we got this preview episode that's up right now. But also, if you're listening to this or watching this, wherever you're doing this, scroll a little up and you'll find an episode of You Killed It in which we were joined by Ashley Mitchell, aka Smashley, aka Millionaire Mitchell. She joined us on the pod and kind of just went over her whole challenge career. It was a vibe. We had a lot of fun. She was on vacation in, where was she? Jog my memory. Do you remember? Mexico, yes. So it was a good hang.
Mayan Riviera, one of my favorite places on earth.
It was a good hang. So if you're listening to this, right, either listen to this first, then go listen to Ashley, or pause. We don't mind. Go listen to Ashley first, then come back and listen to this episode. But either way, as this new season of the challenge draws near, we definitely got you covered here on the You Killed It podcast.
Go ahead and listen. We won't mind. We'll still be here when you come back. We're not going anywhere. Don't worry about it.
That is correct. Also, I don't know if I was worried about when the new challenge season was coming, because I think we knew that something was going down, but we just didn't know when. But when they announced the date of December 9th, I was kind of stunned it was that early, because I didn't know, I knew they probably shot, but I wasn't sure when they would try to get the next season out. But here we are. So how do you feel just knowing that there is a season that's going to start just before we round out this 2020 crazy year?
I like it. At first, I was like, how are they going to navigate the holidays, right? That's always a big thing. Mm-hmm. But because it's airing on Wednesday nights, that means it'll air on December 23rd and December 30th. So not a big deal. And I mean, let's be honest, lots of people are going to be home for the holidays. So everyone will be able to watch it. So I'm excited. And the last season really sustained us through the first half of the pandemic. So hopefully Double Agents will see us through to the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy, right? I mean, the last season, there was nothing going down, and people who listen to this podcast kind of know we have ties to the sports world or sports journalism world. And the last season of the challenge hit when there were no sports going on. So that was perfect. And so it's kind of funny now, because I was wondering, okay, when is this season of the challenge going to start? And it's starting now before, football's going on, but for us, in terms of me doing this podcast, the NBA comes back right before Christmas. So it's getting into busy season again, but I'm excited. I'm fired up. It's going to be really fun and really hectic on the schedule, but we'll make it work with some whole grain goodness that is a challenge. Yeah, of course.
Tough.
We're just talking. We're just watching the challenge and talking about it. And then when you hear some of the pre-production notes in terms of what these guys went through to film said challenge. So, we'll go over a little bit. There's not really, there's no spoilers or anything like that involved in what I'm about to say, but I just want to get your thoughts on some things, right? So first off, they're shooting this season. They shot the season, over 9 weeks in Iceland.
Yeah.
So first off, I was kind of surprised that it only takes 9 weeks to film it. 9 weeks sounds like a long time, but at the same time, not really. But now that I'm thinking of the date, because the way that my production mind works, I'm thinking 9 weeks over the fall is what I read. So I would assume fall has to be September. So even if you said September, October, or whatever, but the turnaround on editing all of this to have it ready for December 9th, bravo to this crew that works on the challenge. Huge bravo.
I mean, you could speak to this better than I could. For sure better than I could. But I imagine that MTV and Bun and
Mm,
Murray, they're not shooting a lot of other things right now. So all the like you would have more editors available to work
possibly.
on this, right? Like, and it would also be in your best interest because this is, I think, I'm confident this is MTV's most successful TV show right now in terms of like
Probably.
profitability.
Probably their biggest reality show for sure. I'm pretty sure about that. I think
And
so.
it also means that they wouldn't have to lay anyone off or maybe not like lay people off altogether, maybe reducing them to part time. Like
Well,
if you bring
well,
on extra editors from
I think
other
it works
properties.
freelance anyways. My assumption would be that all these people work freelance, so it's all kind of like a production company where you're getting hired for the job,
Hmm.
right? So from season to season, they got their crew that they're hiring on for each season, and that's kind of how they roll. The one thing I found interesting was the assumption that you have a pre-production crew, you have a production crew for when it's actually going on, but then how quickly does that translate to the post-production crew, meaning the people who are editing and putting it together? Like, are they still filming stuff while you're already putting together? Do you know what I mean? Are they still filming stuff while you're still putting together the first episodes? And that's the thing that's kind of interests me as like a TV nerd, like that type of thing. So it was just interesting to realize the breakdown. Like I was reading up on it. It said that the pre-production for the season actually started in January and they planned to film in March. But
Oh,
obviously with COVID, that all got pushed back. So they didn't end up going. So they had to do like, what's it called, like site surveys and like screenings for they did virtual site surveys for, like, you would normally go somewhere and like scout locations on where you want to shoot. You know, we could shoot here in this house, or we could shoot on this location for the eliminations and do all that. They had to do all that virtually, right? Which is like, seems just so inconceivable, right? Like it seems like such a huge risk because you want to actually be like boots on the ground and see all these things. But they didn't have that option, obviously, with COVID. So they figured it out and they did a lot of that virtually. And then uh, the producers, I think, traveled there in July to Iceland. And then other members started coming through in September when they finally began filming. So that's kind of how we got to this point. And of course, COVID, like it was strenuous in terms of the process before everyone came over. Like you had to quarantine, you had to take a bunch of tests, and then even once they were there, they essentially built a bubble
yeah.
for not only the cast but also the production crew. And it was kind of like, you know, if you were a local caterer, you can't get into their bubble, right? Like you're kind of just dropping off the food and someone else is bringing it in, so that way there's no chance of the bubble being burst because you couldn't have someone test positive, right? Like
No,
that would be the worst case
it'd be a
scenario because you can't wait
disaster.
it out. Yeah.
The way these
So,
animals live, it would be the worst get. Like we've seen
right.
how disgusting the challenge houses get. So if
Mhm.
you don't have like if someone catches it, like
Yeah,
you're in big trouble. And to your point, like you mentioned caterers, but in my mind, the people that they always hire that are local are like security
for sure.
and the medics, like
Yeah.
the medical personnel. So I assume they either had a local like medical crew that they
Hmm.
paid to bubble for 2 weeks in advance, which for those of you not keeping track of the COVID-19 situation in Canada, we still have TV productions going on here. Like
Hmm.
Handmaid's Tale is still shooting, The Boys is shooting, Gotham is all shooting here in Toronto. And
Yeah.
the way they do it is cast members and crew members
Hmm.
have to quarantine and like sign oaths that they're not leaving
Yeah.
their home for a week or two, depending on their role. So like I guess they could have done the same with Icelandic like
Yeah.
freelancers.
So, and it was different too, right? Because obviously you're filming this and it's still going on. So there were a lot of things that they changed how they would do. Like, for example, you know, there's a lot of close up shots, and you would have camera people close up in the face of the contestants. Well, you didn't really want to do that. You kind of wanted to try to maintain some level of social distancing, like 6 feet apart. So they made a strategic move to like use the different lenses, right? That would allow the camera
Mm-hmm.
people to be further away. I'm pretty sure the camera people and security people are in like full PPE gear, right?
Yeah.
And like all of those things, because there's different level of the people who were I don't want to say quarantining, in the bubble together, right? So obviously all the people in the house and like the producers, that's one level of the bubble. And then there'd be
Mhm.
another level of people who had like different levels that they would get into, which would be security people or camera people that you're rotating in and out. But also everyone took COVID tests every 3 days to ensure that they were still negative. And so I think they said it amounted to 3,000 COVID tests throughout filming.
Wow.
Right. So
Have
that's
you had a
like,
COVID test?
I haven't. I have not had a COVID test. No.
I had one 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and it was both better and worse than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Do you want to hear a gross story? Should I share
I
the
don't know.
first gross
I
story?
actually don't want to hear a gross story, to be
Too bad,
honest.
Sheldon. We're in.
Oh, jeez. I knew you were going to
So,
say that anyways. I'm on to you. I'm on to your game. I know your
uh,
ways.
so I got COVID tested.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, 2 weekends ago, and like it gets deep into your nose for sure, but it's over pretty fast. Like 10 seconds in
Mm-hmm.
total. You know, your eyes water, and
Mm-hmm.
then like you have the intense. I had the intense feeling that my nose was bleeding. But of
Oh,
course, you immediately have to put your mask back on, right?
yeah.
So like I put my mask on, I'm like, my nose is for sure bleeding into my
Yeah.
mask. This is like
Uh,
not a great scene. So I
uh,
I get outside of the hospital and take my mask off once I'm like far away from other people. Blow my nose.
uh, this is
Sheldon, it was
way too
totally
much
fine.
information.
It was totally fine. There was no blood. It was just like the sensation of blood.
Oh,
So I was like,
yeah.
oh, and then I was totally fine. Like after I blew my nose, felt totally 100% normal.
Yeah.
The next day, I'm going for my evening walk, listening to some music,
Mm-hmm.
blow my nose, blood explodes everywhere, and I'm bleeding profusely from my nose on Yonge Street, which for those of you who aren't Torontonians is the main street of the city. Fun fact, longest street in the world. And so then I had to deal with a bleeding nose on the street. Great
For
times.
people who are listening to this, you will have a different experience of this story than people who are watching this video on YouTube, because my face was just permanently screwed the whole time. Just
Sheldon,
okay,
Toronto
cool.
can't be the screw face capital of the world if I don't make you do a screw face from time to time. I also, let's try to come out strong
Uh,
because I feel like I'm not going to be able to talk about tanks like I did last season. So I
okay.
gotta, I gotta do like something to keep it fresh.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things though that I think going to Iceland, right? Like they made this decision though, like there might not be tanks, or I don't know if there's going to be tanks.
I don't think there's going to
But
be tanks.
one of the reasons they did go to Iceland, like it was a strategic move, right? Because one of the things that's super important was that you have all these different types of backdrops that you could have, right? Like think about how many places in the world where you could have like from volcanoes to like ice
Hmm.
sculptures to like, do you know what I mean? Like glaciers and volcanoes and black sand beaches and all these different things that would make for such crazy backdrops. So you might not get tanks, but you get some dope scenes at the same time, right?
Well, it's interesting because stylistically, this is a very different looking show
Mm-hmm.
than last season.
Yeah, for sure.
The new house looks baller. And
Yeah,
like it's not even a house. It's clearly like some
it's a
other space
compound.
that a compound, some other space that they converted for
Yeah.
their purposes, but a huge upgrade, much more geared to being social. An interesting thing that was pointed out, I
Mm-hmm.
forget who, maybe it was Ashley that pointed it out,
Mm-hmm.
but the house that the cast members live in,
Mm-hmm.
you can see where everyone else is at all times. So if
Oh,
anyone's having a game conversation, they're
oh,
visible. So there's like glass walls all over the place. Obviously,
yes.
Iceland, as the name implies, can be cool, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so to be like it's to get like those sidebar conversations where deals get done. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be easy. Like at the very
Yeah.
least, people are going to know that you spoke to that person.
Yeah. And like two other things that are kind of cool or interesting. One, with it being in Iceland and it still being the pandemic, there's no twist at the end where you're going to like some different country or different place for the finale. That's not a thing, obviously, because you can't just like travel and go somewhere else without quarantining, right? So that's off the table. But also, you mentioned the house. And the one twist with the house is normally, if you listen to this podcast, you know, one of my favorite things is a club scene, right?
No club scenes.
No club scenes. But what they did do is they built in a space within the house that will be dubbed as said bar club scene spot. I look forward to seeing how they did with that. I got a lot of questions. Who's in charge of the music? Who is there a DJ? Are they on Apple? Are they on Spotify? I got a lot of questions.
One thing that I find interesting is if you like watch old seasons of the challenge and the real world and road rules for that matter, it was partly used as a platform to promote music.
Totally.
Right? And they've gotten away from that. Like now they use the music more for dramatic effect, right? Like we've seen them use like classic rock or like music from like the 90s for like comic effect or for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
And now that they're have created their own club, like I wonder if they're going to use that as like a venue to feature music. But then again, like MTV's basically a music game, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but like it is like
in name only.
yeah, basically. But it is a cross promotional tool, and I'm just curious to know, like, will they use that? Like, I think I would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how just this whole house plays out and how, you know, the COVID testing and all that stuff. Like, it just adds such another layer to an already chaotic show. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm just interested to see how they handle all those things. But one of the things that was chaotic from last season that they're bringing back into this season, and I want to know how happy you are to see this, was the twist of the skulls. The skulls are back. Meaning to make the final, you need to have a skull. We liked the twist last year, right? Oh, the thing is, though, too, there's less skulls available this year as well.
Yeah, I don't
know how that's going to play out, but
I thought that was a real strength of Total Madness. And I'm glad they brought it back. I think it really changed the dynamic of the game for the better. And also, I'm assuming that Double Agents is essentially a sequel to Free Agents, right? Like, isn't that what the name sort of implies? Like, I know obviously Double Agents invokes like spies and stuff. What I'm trying to say is it's not a team game. It's not a partner game.
Yeah,
I think it's a solitary game.
Yeah, I think one of the ways it was described by the showrunner was it's an individual game disguised as a team game.
Yeah.
Right? And so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And also just, you know, what other twists and turns there are. Because I still have a feeling for some reason that, you know, Double Agents for some reason makes me think there's going to be people that just pop up in the middle of the season. Which I know is weird, but that just means that person would have to be quarantined ahead of time and just like held off. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be difficult to do, but I don't know. The whole double agent thing leaves a lot of things up in the air.
The other thing, when I heard the name of the season being Double Agents, the other thing that seemed to like sort of occurred to me was, you know how on Big Brother they have like in previous seasons they've had like you're the saboteur, or like they give like side missions to some people. I wonder if that's like if they like the producers pull one of them in for their confessional and they say like, hey, for $15,000 we need you to ruin breakfast tomorrow or whatever. Like, I'm just like off the top of my head.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. That'd be interesting.
But I'm also very interested in the dynamic of this cast, because there's a lot of interesting people in this cast, and also
for sure
a lot of people that are notable by their absence, which changes the dynamic.
I'm kind of okay with that.
I'm not complaining.
Sorry?
I'm not complaining that we're missing two big names that we'll get to. But I'm intrigued by how their absence will affect some of the people that are in the house.
See, that's interesting. Okay, so I think when we get to certain people, we'll
We'll
be
get
able
to
to
them when
tie
we get
that
to them.
in. But let's kind of go through the cast because there's a lot of people who there's some interesting people returning. There's some interesting faces, some regulars, and then some new people that I have no idea who they are. So let's just go through this here. I got a list up here, and it's literally just veterans and then rookies, and it's in alphabetical order. So that's the order we're going in here, right?
Sure.
So let's start off with Anisa. How like intrigued are you by seeing Anisa back again?
I'm always intrigued by seeing Anisa. I'm a
Okay.
big fan of Anisa. I know you're a big fan of Anisa. Not to put words in your mouth, but she's great. I am
I'm
curious.
okay with Anisa.
Yeah, I am curious to see what. I mean, the knock on her, and I don't think it's her fault necessarily, is that
Mm-hmm.
people always she's always like the last to be eliminated right before the final. And like the knock on her is because she is a curvier woman, people assume that she's not going to have the gas to finish like super demanding, essentially like 2 days of marathons, like the final is. But we've also, in the past 2 seasons, seen
Yeah.
air quotes like beefy, huge dudes like Zach and
Fessy.
Fessy and Paulie. Not that Paulie's huge, but he's quite fit. Gas out. And in our interview with Smashley, she made the point because you asked her why did Paulie gas out, that he's so lean that he has nothing in reserve. Like he has
Mm-hmm.
no like calories that he's carrying around.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I'm curious to see if Anisa can overcome this like perception that she can't do a final, which like there's no evidence that she can't do a final.
See,
Like,
I just don't think it'll happen for her. I just don't think it'll happen. It's just a thing where, people kind of have their minds made up, and the way that this show works, unless she builds some super alliance and she gets to be a part of that alliance, kind of like, what the Ashley, Cara, Paulie alliance was from that same season you were just talking about. Unless she's able to build something like that and join in on that squad and make it to a final, that's kind of the only way I see that happening, just because the way that the seasons play out, it's always the same, right? She's going to be around for a while. She's going to be around for a while. But then when one of the girls don't want to, when they think that they can get an easy skull, they're going to go against Anisa and throw her in and try to beat her in that.
mhm.
And I just think that's how it's going to play out because it always does. But so to me, that's kind of an easy one. Like that seems obvious because that seems like it's what always happens to Anisa. But someone who it's not always easy to predict what's going to happen is the aforementioned Miss Ashley Mitchell, who is obviously back and, one of the most, she's won the most money of any female, of any challenge competitor, period. And she always, finds a way to figure out the house, figure out the
Yep.
politics within the house. And last season, I think Johnny Bananas, who's a vet himself, was just onto her game and blew up her game before she was going to blow up his. With Johnny not here, how do you see, and some other people who she's worked with well in the past in the game, in terms of Killer Cam, right?
Hmm.
How do you think
And
Ashley will
Tory.
do, and how happy are you to see Ashley back in the game?
I'm really excited to see Ashley back in the game. Big fan of Smashley. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're seeing her continue to mature and grow. And
Yeah.
she's really shown us something that previous, like, she's in the conversation for one of the best competitors in the show's history. As you said,
Okay.
the most money that any woman has won on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And her great gift is she's so adaptable. So I think she's going to excel in a game format where other people are like no one really knows what to expect. I think she's going to be one of the fastest to adapt. And
Yeah.
also, I don't know if you saw this interview, but they sort of MTV posted a clip of all the or most of the vets speaking about what brought them back,
Mm-hmm.
and she very specifically said, "I was the all-time money winner, regardless of gender, until
Yeah.
last season." And she like listed down to like the cent how much money she needs to make to surpass Johnny.
I
So
like
she's
it.
motivated.
I like it.
So a motivated Ashley in a game format that I think can really suit her and her style of play.
She can play a double agent quite well, I think.
Absolutely. And we mean that very respectfully. She's
No,
just
of
a good read
course.
of people. Arguably, her political game is her best asset. So I'm excited to see what she can do. And to your point, one of her biggest nemesis is not in the house, and she's got a lot of allies in the house too.
Yeah,
A lot of friendly faces, or a lot of people that she doesn't have issues with.
for sure. And again, if you haven't listened to our interview with Ashley, check that out. Wherever you're listening to this right now, just scroll up or down, depending on which platform it is.
Yeah.
You can figure it out. Just a prior episode to this one, we did a full hour-long conversation with Ashley. It was incredible. Don't you dare miss it. That's the second time I've said that in this podcast, so I got to find another line. But we'll move on to the next person on the list here, who is Big T, who I think has become a cast favorite and actually like one of my favorites too. Like last season, I thought she was just hilarious, had like an all-time classic moment where she just started losing it after she jumped off the bed and cut her toe, and they were helping her to the hospital, and one of the funniest moments I've seen on the challenge in a long time. But Big T just seems to be, you know how you have like in sports, like say you have a glue guy or a glue girl, someone just
John
brings a team
McDonald.
together. Yeah, someone just brings a team together, good for the room, right? I think that's Big T. Big T is just a positive influence, smiling, happy-go-lucky person, and I'm happy to see Big T back.
I love Big T. She's not going to win, but I love Big T.
Well, one thing I will say though, Big T has improved a bit, right? Like from her first to her second time on the show, there was an improvement, right?
Yes,
No?
she's put in the work,
Yeah.
but I also don't think
So
she's going to win.
no, that's fair. That's fair. I was just looking for more improvement. That's all. Maybe a most improved player award or something.
If she
Um,
gets through the season without getting injured, hats off to Big T.
That's a win. That's a dub for sure. Next up is Corey, and we're big fans of Corey. Corey had a really interesting season last season on the challenge.
Last
Always good to
decade,
see,
earlier this year.
right? Which seems like so long ago, but really it's not that long ago at all.
Not.
Corey, it's good to see Corey back, right? And you know, Corey back. We know Nelson's back. We'll get to him in a bit, but obviously I'm interested to see how this season plays out after last season, where he and Nelson obviously had their bromance taken to a whole new level, where Nelson sacrificed himself essentially to let Corey continue on and try to win the money. And he couldn't finish the job. He was so close. He fumbled the bag for real. Like he should have been in the money for sure. Messed that up, but he's back again. And I like seeing Corey. I like seeing the progression of Corey and how he's evolved, matured through his time on the challenge, but still an entertaining member of the house.
Corey is a very interesting castmate to have this season, in part because of that maturation process that you're talking about. The other thing, and we're going to get to it. I mean, maybe now is the time to get to it. But we're essentially seeing the entire Young Bucks. We're missing Hunter.
Yes.
But we're getting Corey, Nelson, and then like associated members like Fessy and Devin, and God help us, Josh. So it's like,
is Josh in their crew? I mean, we'll find out, but
sort of. I've seen previews, and we'll touch on that when God help us we get to Josh.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
But my point is that that's like 4 of the 5. That's like when Czarface gets together and it's basically a Wu-Tang Clan track, or when there's a Ghostface. You know, like Ghostface will put out an album and there's like always one track that has like Raekwon and maybe Meth and like then maybe like Redman, and you're like, we're almost there, guys. Like it's not produced by the RZA, but we're basically
we'll take it.
We're basically there with the Young Bucks.
Yeah, I like seeing Corey back, and I like the crew. I like, we've talked about it for years and years, but their crew is a crew in which they're becoming a solid foundation for the challenge, meaning you don't need a Johnny Bananas to carry a season, right? Like these guys
No.
are entertaining enough. They're strong enough personalities. They're funny enough in the house. They're just, people you want to hang with enough that they can carry a season. The Corey, Fessy was a great addition last year. We'll get to him for sure, right? Nelson is always a hot button topic in any season he's in. So yeah, definitely good to see Corey back. Someone I'm wondering how you feel about seeing him back is CT.
I'm excited
CT.
for CT. I'm really hyped for CT to be back because he looks to be in better shape than he was the previous 2 seasons. And let's not forget, he won 2 seasons ago. He arguably had the best season of his career in War of the Worlds 2.
And the interesting part about CT was last year, he was the one that really took the skull, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Wrinkle?
The wrinkle.
skull.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's the one that really stepped up to the plate and tried to knock it out of the park in terms of saying, no, I'm going to go in now. And I'm going to try to go in against who we're deeming to be the weakest competitor.
He's the
now,
one that
didn't work
understood it first.
Yeah, it didn't work out for him. But, I think it was still the right move and not playing the result of, he lost, so it was a bad move. I still think it was a good move, and I still think he should have done it again because you need a skull to get to the final. And if this is the person who you deem is the weakest person, why wouldn't you want to go in against them? Jay just did a good job in that challenge. That was a crazy elimination with him and Jay when they had to untangle all of that shit to open up the gate and get in. That was pretty crazy. But hey, at the end of the day, good to see CT back. Papa CT taking a fatherly role. I did watch the trailer, and CT was in it quite a bit, just reacting to stuff as you'd expect. Chirping as you'd expect in a different low-key mode. I'd urge people who are newer to the challenge to just dive into a YouTube hole of like CT's greatest hits, because this is not the same person that we're used to seeing from back in the day, right? It's a whole different guy, but I'm okay with that. I feel like we've grown up with CT.
Yeah. We've grown up with CT, and like he's, again, like we speak about Corey, but he has changed so much, and he's aware of it too.
Oh, he was coming on and fighting dudes every single season. He was the bully. He was chirping people. He was fighting people. He was, hooking up with everybody. Like there was a whole, like, it's a wave. Go back and watch those seasons, and CT was the showstopper on this season of the challenge. Another dude I know you're happy to see back is Devin. Devin, we haven't seen in a couple seasons.
I might be
Devin
Devin's
is a good
number
character.
one fan. I love Devin so much.
You have a solid man crush on Devin for sure.
Oh yeah, I have no problem saying that. I love Devin. He's one of the best like people that they've had for the narrative.
Okay.
He brings a different element. All due respect to the Fessies of the world, the Corys of this world. There's a lot of like jacked up meatheads they can bring on, but Devin brings a different style, and like he's gotten pretty fit since his like last full season, but he is a little more intellectual. He's a little more political.
Yeah.
We know that he's good friends with Wes, so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays. Like, is he going to gravitate towards Wes? Is he going to gravitate towards the young bucks?
Yeah.
Again, Johnny Bananas is not there. He hates Johnny Bananas. So he'll be a little more focused without having that distraction. And I know that a lot of the ladies love Devin. I don't know about his relationship status right now, but I know that he'll have a lot of female allies in terms of voting or not voting. And I think it's just like, variety of the spice is the spice of life on this show. And Devin brings something different to the table.
Totally agree. Great addition. Great to see Devin back, as he does bring a little something different to the show. And it's what makes the show great. So many different angles and so many different kinds of people and different types of people making the show great for sure. Someone else who is a different kind of dude, but who is back. And I would say one of the most underrated challenge competitors in the history of the show who doesn't get enough respect for the work that he puts in is Darrell.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see Darrell back because Darrell, he's a badass and he's not afraid to show it. He's not afraid to tell you about yourself, but he's also a grown ass man. So he's not really here for the shenanigans, right? He's just here trying to win and put in work. And I'm interested to see how he fits into this. You know, is there going to be like an OG type of alliance with, you know, let's say him, Anisa, Wes, CT, or are they going to try to gravitate towards the young bucks, right? Is he going to gravitate more towards the Devons and the Fessies and Corys and that crew? I'm very interested to see that. Like, that's going to be interesting to me anyways. I remember before, going way, way back when Corey was trying to call out Darrell and that didn't go too well for Corey. Remember that? The Team Young Bucks were trying to get at the OGs and it didn't really go well. Them trying to
His
take
hit
out Darrell.
list.
Oh, yeah. But
Ugh.
yeah, I want to see how that goes, but I'm happy to see Darrell back.
I'm always happy to see Darrell. I'm curious. The one thing I'll say about Darrell is he doesn't really play much of a political game, like, or
No.
at least in his most recent seasons,
Yeah.
he was very much content to have light beers and
Mm-hmm.
play cards with CT.
Yep.
And I understand why that appealed to him,
Mm-hmm.
but I can also see why that's not getting it done in terms of winning the fucking thing.
For sure.
So
we'll see. We'll see how it plays.
We'll see.
Out.
We'll see what he brings.
Someone who will see what he brings as well, because he had a disappointing final after dominating most of the season, is your man's Fessy. I think Fessy
is
had
he
a
my
great.
man's?
No, it's a general your man's, not necessarily directed as you, just a general your man's Fessy. A great rookie season,
Yeah.
but didn't really end well as he found out. Like, I think Fessy was a perfect example for people who are new to watching the challenge, but also new to being on the challenge. Fessy's last season was a lesson in terms of what this show really is. Because he thought he was just going to dance all the way, like Deion Sanders high step all the way to a challenge victory. And it was like,
Nope.
nah, bruh, not quite. He flamed out in the finals hard. But with that said, I'm interested to see how he does this season, because now he's still the physical beast, but he has the target on his back of all these people that know his work and know how dominant he can be. So I want to see how he plays that this time around with the target on his back. Does he get a little bit better at the political game? I want to see how that plays out.
I have to say, I'm a changed man, Sheldon, since Total Madness, because what I did in the off season, there's no rest on these You Killed It streets. I was out there hustling and grinding. I watched Big Brother All Stars this past summer. I did not miss an episode.
Okay.
I put in that work. And I'm gotta say, Big Brother competitors don't impress me. I'm not impressed with their political game. And I mean, we all know the competitions are not on the same level.
Not even close.
There's no doubt, but also, like, I know this season of Big Brother, and it was the first season of Big Brother I had watched in at least a decade.
Okay.
But for an all-star cast, they did not make stellar political moves.
A couple things. One,
I know
it was
not a
fake
good
all-star
season.
cast, but two, it was a fake all-star cast, not really an all-star cast. But two, I didn't even watch this season of Big Brother, to be honest. Didn't even tune it in. I think I turned on like one episode kind of early on, and then I watched bits and pieces of the finale. But other than that, I did not really watch it all. The one thing I will say, it's just two different shows. Like, to me, I don't even understand how people compare the shows, because they're not even remotely close to the same thing. The only reason why people end up from Big Brother to the challenge is because they both fall under the CBS umbrella in terms of parent company shows. That's it, right? Other than that, it's not the same show at all.
I also think CBS sort of tries to market the challenge as like R-rated Big Brother.
For sure.
Like I
totally.
think I think CBS Viacom, like that's sort of what they're going for. But in terms of the format of the shows and like what it takes to win one show
Hmm.
versus the other,
Yeah.
what I'd be curious to see is if someone from the challenge went into the Big Brother house. Because I'm
Hmm.
not necessarily certain that someone from the challenge would win at Big Brother. Like I'm
It
not
all
saying
depends on who, because it's all random. It's so different. Like it all depends on who it is. All
that's
depends on
fair.
who it is. Um, someone I'm really interested in how this person does their second time around. Not as much as Fessy, but still very interested is Jay. And that's
Oh,
because
I'm
Jay, the way that he went out, he has potential to be a really good competitor on the challenge and a really good character on the TV show side of it. So I'm really interested to see how he does his second time around, because I know he was super frustrated with being the rookie and being thrown in time after time after time last season. So I want to see what he does this season. Does he partner up with the Young Bucks? Or does he do the same thing that he was mad at last season in terms of just pick on the Young Bucks and keep throwing them in because it's their turn? Either way, good character. I like seeing Jay. He's just someone who is entertaining. Whether you like him or not, he's entertaining on a reality show.
he's likable. He is good at like sneaky good in competitions. I mean, he just got stuck in that D and Rogan vortex. I mean, he just should have never made out with D. Like that's what it boils down to.
Speaking of people I'm happy to not see again.
Oh,
But
yeah,
anyways, yeah.
absolutely. But I'm really interested to see what he does. And
Yeah.
also, part of Jay's struggles last season does fall at the feet of he assumed that there'd be like a strong Big Brother alliance,
Mhm.
and there was not. Like
No.
Casey and Fessy and Bailey and
Swaggy
Swaggy, I can't even
and
say
Josh.
it, and Josh, they didn't really like
No.
gel. They did
No.
not come together as a team. And so like Jay, I think like first night in the house had been like, okay, I see how it is. We got like real world people or like people that know each other. Are you the one people? And then like Big Brother people, I'm the only survivor guy, but like we'll make this happen.
And it didn't
And like
work.
we saw like hints of that, and then it just like did not happen.
Not at
And like
all.
I think it was to all of their detriment. Like I think Swaggy and Bailey also suffered. Like I know Bailey
Yeah.
made it to the final, but like
No, totally.
whole nother season if they like clicked, if they actually backed each other up.
We say it every single season. It's a numbers game, right?
Yeah,
And so if you don't have numbers, or not even that, if you have numbers but then turn down the numbers that you have, you're not going to do too well. Speaking of not doing too well, Josh is up next. And I said that
that
Anisa's
was a good
season is
segue.
predictable. Josh's season is also very predictable, if I'm not, like he's going to be quiet kind of in the beginning, pretend to be everyone's friend, right? Then he's going to blow up in the middle just because that's just what he does. And he's going to get in a screaming match, which I think I saw in a trailer. But
Yeah,
overall, I'm always just annoyed by Josh, and he serves a purpose because he will give us at least 2 episodes, I'll say, 2 episodes of content where it's just like Josh is so annoying or Josh has just made the worst gameplay ever. But that's the role that he serves. And when you're talking about a show that has 16 episodes or however many episodes there are in a season, you need that sometimes. So cool, Josh is back, but whatever. Who's gonna be on the other end of screaming at Josh this season? Last season it was Swaggy. Season before it was Polly. Season before it was it Wes? Is he still trying to get on Wes's good side? I don't
yeah.
know.
Well,
But
he
either
got up
way,
after West last season. He's bumped heads with CT in the past.
yep,
Whoever it is, like he's the most annoying person in this house
yeah,
right now. And like I know, like, do we know how many episodes the season's going to be? There's 30
no idea.
contestants, so like it's not going to be 30 episodes. But
I
let's
have
say
no
it's
idea. It's always around 20.
let's
It's always
say
around somewhere there.
let's say it's 20 episodes. around episode 8, 9, and 10, you and I are going to be sick of Josh's shit. Like that,
Sure.
like I know it. I know it. He's going to
Like,
be
I
doing
just remember
something
him
so fucking annoying.
standing on the bar screaming. And it's like, what are you doing, bro? Anyways, let's move on to someone I'm happy to see back in the house, and that's Killa Cam.
Yes.
Killa Cam is a great character. First off, she's a bad bitch in terms of just not afraid of the smoke, will go into the elimination and just win. Also is not afraid to take charge in terms of leading an alliance or leading her team. I'm just happy to see Cam back. Cam is a great character on the show and happy to see her back.
I'm happy to see her back. And most significantly, she and Leroy are a couple and they're living together. They just announced that they're moving to Houston together, that they're going to live in Houston together. This, to me, is really interesting. Like, I'm just going to roll Leroy and Cam in together.
Okay.
Because the last time we saw Leroy was War of the Worlds 2, and it was arguably his best season. Like, he showed a lot of leadership.
Yep.
He showed a lot of focus, a lot of determination. But he and Cam weren't yet on the same page. They were sorting some things out. Now they're on the same page. Arguably a power couple. And I might need a review, but I don't think there's any other couples going into the game. And,
yeah, I don't think so.
And he does not have Johnny Bananas in there. And this, I mean, I alluded to it earlier. Johnny Bananas not being in the house, I think is going to be a huge help to him, because I think Leroy's loyalty to Johnny, while admirable in the real world, I think cost him a lot in terms of being the fall guy for Johnny and getting wrapped up in Johnny's drama and doing Johnny's dirty work and being a target because people knew he was one of Johnny's numbers. So
interesting. Okay.
I think that just Leroy and Cam being in the house together without, Leroy's ex, Johnny Bananas, being there, I think is really going to help Leroy's game. And I'm really interested to see how it works out. Also, for what it's worth, and I know we have to always bring this up when it comes to Leroy, I can't imagine they're going to do a lot of swimming this season, as it is in Iceland in the fall, which would be cold.
I feel like I've seen some challenges where they're above water. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's just something, because I also tried not to watch a lot of things. So maybe it could have just been like flashback episodes. I take that back. But
it's a different thing if like the challenge involves just like doing something above a height and falling into the water, rather than like, we need you to swim 500 meters around that buoy and then like come back or whatever, right? So
yeah, I'm happy to see Leroy, and I hope maybe this is the year that Leroy finally gets through and gets a dub. We'll see. Hopefully. We can only hope.
I would love to see Leroy win.
Yeah,
I would love to see Leroy win. And I know in her interviews, Anisa has spoken about the importance of having a person of color win.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm all in on that. And, like, I don't know how closely you didn't watch Big Brother, but, like, there was talk in the house of all the black people working together to try to have a black person win. Spoiler,
I did see those clips of Big Brother.
It did not work out.
But there's some great content in terms of them talking about just knowing and understanding the role that they play in terms of people watching them and expectations and how they know they have to act differently. And definitely interesting for sure. Someone I really don't find interesting and someone
what a segue.
I hope they don't win is Casey. I just find her really boring. Although she was like, when the Nani stuff popped up last season, I'll give her that. Like, at least it was something that was going on. But even, the way that she handled it was kind of pretending as if it wasn't, even though we were seeing it happen and there's cameras everywhere. But she's kind of quiet. I didn't really like how she treated Bailey. I was on Team Bailey, the way that played out last season. Yeah. But Casey's back. I don't really care that she's back, to be honest. I guess I kind of want to see, are her and Nani still cool? I don't know. I guess that's it. But other than that, she's going to be quiet. She's going to do well in challenges, and she's going to make it pretty far.
I mean, just off the bat, on the topic of her and Nani, last season, she and Nani had an intense flirtation. They may or may not have kissed. I believe they kissed.
Didn't we see it? We saw it.
We saw it, and then there was like verbal confirmation when they were drunk where they talked about the fact that they kissed.
Okay.
But if you're Casey's girlfriend, are you like, oh yeah, no, cool, like fly off to a bubble with Nani again? This is fine. I'm assuming that Casey's single or has an understanding with her girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
It'll be a thing that'll get played up again for sure.
I do want to say, though, I agree with you that Casey, although she sparked drama, she was herself not entertaining.
Totally.
Like, she didn't really engage in the drama. Like, she didn't give us a lot to, like, be like, oh, yeah, like, this is great, you know? So,
yeah. Someone who is very involved in drama most often than not is Kyle. And Kyle is back. I'm interested to see how Kyle does, because Kyle normally, kind of like Leroy, is someone who was, very attached to Johnny Bananas.
Yeah.
Right? Or very much involved in whatever Johnny's moves or gameplay was. So I kind of want to see how Kyle plays it this time around, as he tends to be a chameleon when he needs to be, right? Finds the right side to be on. He'll probably cozy up with CT. But I also want to see what kind of role Kyle plays with some of the ladies in the house as well, because that seems to be a Kyle thing that we kind of saw last year, but not really, because there's this weird him and Mel flirtation thing that was going on that I still feel like they probably left some things on the cutting room floor on purpose, because it might have gotten a little bit awkward. Which we don't need to get into that. We'll save that for the You Killed It Uncut podcast. But Kyle overall is just entertaining. I like seeing Kyle. He's a good character. He's a good dude. He's a good character. He's a fun hang. Cool. I'm happy Kyle's back.
I love Kyle. As we often speak about, he is so good at the narrative. Like he's so funny. Yeah. And I want to believe that Kyle learned a lot last season. Okay. You might recall first night in the Total Madness house, CT pulled him aside and was like, you know what your problem is? You get yourself in too many alliances.
True. And
eventually that screws you. So like you need to do less. And Kyle sort of listened to that, tried his best to listen to it. And I hope he continues to take that to heart, because like I would like to see Kyle win, or I'd like to see Kyle do well. Like I like Kyle.
Yeah, he's a good hang. And that's what this show, at least to me, I mean, we do a podcast on a random reality show. And the reason why I like the reality show enough to talk about it after is because it's a good hang. And us talking about it is just continuing the good hang of watching the show. And Kyle fits into that. We use a reference all the time. Someone we like to have a beer with, right? You could see yourself having a beer with, just hanging out, cracking jokes, watching the game, hoping Patrick Mahomes is about to throw for a touchdown because I really need it for my fantasy team, but instead he got sacked. But the point remains, Kyle, good peoples. Also good peoples back in the house. And someone who might be one of the best hangs, one of the most entertaining peoples in the history of the Challenge House, and where her stardom might not shine in terms of the gameplay, it definitely shines in the house drama. That's Nani. Always happy when Nani's on the season, because Nani always brings a spice. Nani is spicy. So I'm happy to see Nani back, because Nani is either, maybe she's making out with guys, maybe she's making out with girls, she's calling out other people's alliances, she's getting into fights, she's sticking up for her friends. You name it, Nani is involved in it, and I like it. I'm here for it. She's a rider. Shouts to Nani.
I'm excited. Like you said it all. Nani is just great TV. I'm excited to have her back. I'm excited for her to get a little sloppy. I'm excited for her to hook up with people or get into a fight or whatever. I love Nani.
The noodles last year. The throwing of the noodles was so good. Like, of someone who already has a great demo reel of being on the challenge, to add something like that last year where you're just whipping noodles across the room at someone.
When
It
she
was
gets
just
in,
one of the most incredible things I've ever seen on television.
when she
So
gets
good.
inducted into the Hall of Fame, her highlight reel is going to be one of the greatest of all time, from her real world
Yeah.
season all the way to the present day.
Yeah. She
It's
is a
just going to
challenge Hall of
be,
Famer. She is
oh,
an MTV Hall of Famer, no doubt. She is the epitome of what makes this show, because it's not just about the people who are in the gym all the time, getting beefed up or running laps or whatever and dominating challenges. She represents a whole other side of the house. I love it so much.
so good.
So good. Someone who is one of the most polarizing people, because you love him or you hate him. And a lot of times people hate him, but he ended last season with one of the most, let's say, heartwarming moments we've seen in the challenge so far. But even still, that's not enough to win over a lot of people because his resume is deep with a lot of shade, a lot of, I'm just going to say it, fuckery as well, is Mr. Nelson Thomas. Nelson is back again. And as much as Nani is great reality TV, Nelson is always great reality TV, because that, whether you love him or hate him, he makes you feel something when he is on the show. How happy are you to see Nelson back? That's a long pause. That's a dramatic pause right there.
I just don't know, Sheldon.
You're allowed to
I
be conflicted about it, of course.
I honestly don't know. How do you feel about it?
Human
About
beings are
it? He's a
complicated.
person. Him.
Human beings are complicated. Nelson is very complicated. He had a very bad season, especially early on, yelling at like some of the shit that he was saying to, was it Ashley? Who
Kayla.
was he? Kayla. Yes. Shouts to Kayla, by the way. I listened to her podcast. She has a podcast about
About documentaries.
documentaries. Yes.
Big
I
Doc
actually,
Energy, which, first of all,
great
excellent
name.
podcast name.
Solid work. But yes, shouts to Kayla. Just had to mention that. I listened to her podcast the other day, the one on what was Homegirl's name that was in Italy. They made a Homegirl that was in Italy and her roommate got killed.
Oh,
The famous case.
I'm just going to
I
look
don't
it up.
remember, but we know it doesn't matter. Either way, really good podcast. And they had her on the podcast to talk about the documentary on Netflix. I
And
was
it
like,
was only
holy
like the
shit.
fifth episode. And Kayla's gotten engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. So huge shouts to Kayla. And I mean, I brought up Kayla because obviously she was someone who called out Nelson for his fucked up ways during last season, where he was talking down to women, not only her, but Anisa as well at times. Like, Nelson had a really shitty season. And then at the end of it, he, made the call where he was going to go in to save Corey. And that was one of the most, like, you're seeing grown men cry, and he put up a big time performance in the elimination. But either way, as I said, Nelson is polarizing. And at the end of the day, whether you love him or hate him, this is reality TV, and he brings entertainment. He does,
It was
whether you love him
it,
or hate him.
it was Amanda Knox. I looked it up while you were talking.
Amanda Knox. Yes, that's who it was.
Speaking of producing on the fly, I have an important question that we did not discuss while we were off air.
Okay.
And I know our listeners want to know. Are we going to bring back Say Something Nice About Nelson?
I thought we retired that because there's nothing that he'll ever able to do that's nicer than what he did for Corey last season.
That's true.
Like, and maybe we didn't retire it last year after that, but I feel like we should.
Well, we retired it because he was eliminated that episode like that.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't think that we should. I think that, that was the nicest thing he could ever do. And so after that,
Here's my
it's going to
problem.
be tough.
Here's like, I thought that was a fun segment and I enjoyed doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it was a funny way of like basically sidelining him in our conversations, that we would avoid him except for saying like the one nice thing.
Yeah.
But when he was like a super shitty misogynist,
Mm-hmm.
I felt really uncomfortable saying anything nice about him.
No, that's
right? Like
fair.
I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
like
No, that's
when
totally fair.
let's just like to be real. There's a good chance that Nelson says something or does something this season
Hmm.
that one or both of us will not approve of. And
Yeah.
I mean, like on a moral, like on an
Yeah. I
ethical
mean,
level, not on a
it's
like, oh, he voted in like the person we like. I mean, like in a really like real life, that was not acceptable, Nelson kind of way. And I don't want
for
to
sure.
put our future selves in the position where we have to say something nice about someone that consistently does things that we don't agree with at
I
all.
still think, though, even last year, even when we were doing that, I think we equally would say something. We would equally crush him when he did and said things that were just terrible. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know either way, however we play it, we're going to crush him when he needs to be crushed. Like, it's not anything like that. Nelson, I just think that, much like anyone else on the show, I feel like we hold people accountable and we just give our
Yeah,
honest
yeah.
opinion on what's going on. So, like, if he sucks and says something stupid, we're going to say that. If he
Mm-hmm.
actually does something nice, like he did for Corey, we're going to say that. Um, and I remember after that episode with Corey happened, and I came on and I was like, I'll never say anything bad about Nelson again. And some people were like, really? And it's like, obviously, we're doing this for dramatic effect. Like, understand what's going on in the moment of the episode. And when he does something nice, we're going to say so. And when he does something shitty, we're also going to say that.
Yeah.
Someone else I
He
really don't like as well. Oh, sorry. Go on. Go on.
I was just gonna say on the note of Nelson, the other thing is that like as much as we're like, oh, say something nice about Nelson, it could just as much apply to Josh, who
For sure.
I think is a better person morally. Like I don't find
Hmm.
him to be a misogynist, but
Yeah.
I find Josh equally annoying and more distasteful. Like there's like I
No, for sure.
dislike Josh in equal parts to Nelson.
Yeah.
So I guess what we've decided is we're not going to bring back something nice about Nelson
No.
because neither of us want to commit to having to say something nice about someone who often does not have nice things to say about him. And
Totally
we'll
agree.
still have free reign to make fun of his like Burberry t-shirts or whatever he wears or however he acts up.
Yeah.
We'll be free to call it as we see it.
Totally agree. Totally agree. The same rules will apply for Nicole, who is back after a little bit of a hiatus on the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicole I find Nicole very annoying as well.
Yeah.
She's back. I don't really have much to say. I just find her really annoying. And I'm assuming that she's going to be all up in the drama because that's normally what she does. But she's
Mm-hmm.
also a really good competitor. So much like Nelson, much like Josh, not really someone I'd want to hang out with, but someone who is entertainment. And you need that on reality shows when they're that many episodes long and it's a long season. You need stupid people to do stupid things. And there's Nicole. That's all I got, really.
That's all I've got.
Moving on, another person making a return after a long stint away is Teresa. And Teresa, I always liked Teresa. Teresa was always a really good character in the challenge because she was a great competitor, one of the better female competitors in the house. Also has a great jump shot, as one of her most famous scenes is, her playing one-on-one against CT, I think it was.
Yep.
Had a little bit of handle, hit him with the Jimmy. I was like, okay, okay. But no, she's just good people. She's just a fun hang, a really good person in the house and good at the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Also good in the house drama and politics. Although it might be a different Teresa we're seeing now because she's married with kids now. And
Yeah.
so that might be a little different, but it'll be good to catch up with her and see how she's doing.
The last time we saw Teresa, she and Nani were screaming at each other and
For
crying
sure.
and having a massive blow up.
Yeah.
I will say, maybe you saw in the previews, Teresa says they've buried the hatchet. A lot
Mhm.
of water has passed under the bridge, that she's genuinely happy to see Nani and that she hopes that they can be back to being the friends they once were.
Yeah.
Not convinced that that's going to hold up. Like I can imagine, as you always say, quoting Jay-Z, when the Remy's in the system, there's no telling.
True.
So
True.
we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens when they go a little stir crazy. We'll have to
Hmm.
see what happens when there's some money on the line.
Yeah.
But I agree, Teresa is gonna. I mean, these vets are also so good on television,
Hmm.
and not all of the younger, newer people are great on TV. They're not as great at the confessionals. They're not as
Hmm.
great at the like repartee. Teresa
Yeah.
can bring it in those regards. So like I don't
Yeah.
think she's going to be hooking up like she once did. I hope not out of respect for her husband and her family.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have Teresa back to catch up with an old friend as it were and just like see where she falls in the house. You know, she
Yeah.
in the past has partnered with Leroy and Wes
Hmm.
in the same season, Battle of the Exes. I forget
Yeah.
which version, but I'm interested to see what she brings to the table. I know she, from previews, is interested in partnering with Wes. Uh, I think he'd like to partner with her, but Wes is always on the move. So, you
Yeah.
know, I think Wes is attracted to the newer deals than the old familiar deals. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what he brings to the table and what she brings.
Speaking of attractive deals, Tory deal is next up on the list here.
Sheldon, that might
And
be the best segue in the history of You Killed It. I am so impressed with you right now. That
hey,
was a thing of beauty.
I got nothing, man. I got nothing. We're not done yet, so like you might have just ruined the flow, but no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
that would be
Um,
me, the combo breaker for sure.
Tory is back, and there was a post recently about the fact that Tory and Jordan have broken up,
Yes,
and
sir.
I wonder if it has anything to do with anything that happened on the show. Now we don't know, but maybe we'll find out. It's been kind of quiet. Haven't really heard much about it. But Tory is a really good challenge competitor. We know that Jordan wasn't on this season, so who knows? But I'm assuming we'll find out because it seems kind of weird that they would acknowledge it right before this season starts, right? Like that seems odd. So we'll see. We'll see. I am glad to have Tory back though.
So I've just been shrugging for the past 30 seconds, and all I'm going to say is, Sheldon, you haven't heard anything.
Oh, I don't want to. Is it going to be on the show?
I've just
Okay,
heard
so
some
I don't want to
things.
hear. I don't
I'm
want to
not,
know then.
I know you
No,
don't
I
like
don't want to know.
spoilers.
I don't want to know.
All I'm going to
And
say
you
is,
know what's
I've
funny
heard
too?
things.
No. I don't want to know, but I will say this too. Uh, I did post something. Maybe it was an Ashley interview on the Reddit page, on the challenge Reddit page, and there were people. They were like, "Oh, is there spoilers? Because if there's spoilers, I don't want to listen to it." And then someone else commented, "They're like, no. These guys don't talk about spoilers because one of them hates it." I'm like, "Yep, correct."
I like that
That
we
is
have.
a
I
that
like
is a
that we have a
loyal viewer right
reputation.
there. That
I'm
is a
not going.
loyal viewer right there.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I've just heard things.
Cool. I like it. Uh, I also like Wes. Wes is
I
the
love
last vet
Wes.
on the list, and Wes is back. Wes, I mean, do we really have to break down Wes? Wes is like one of the best challenge competitors of all time. He is just hilarious in the house. He does a little bit of everything. He can give you all the drama. He's
Five tool player.
manipulating the house. Yeah, he's manipulating the house. He's manipulating the rookies. He's manipulating the gameplay. I mean, he's coming off a season where he worked with Johnny Bananas, right? So right when you think you don't know what's going to happen, Wes is always here surprising you. So why would this season be any different?
He keeps their heads ringing. I love it. I'm glad Wes is back. I'm curious to see what he does. Again, the absence of Johnny Bananas for the first time in a decade.
It's been a while.
I think he's been on every season since Fresh Meat 2.
I don't remember.
He was not on Fresh Meat 2, but he
There's a
was on
couple.
Cutthroat.
No,
I think
there's
he was
been a
on
couple that he wasn't on, and then there was one he came in the middle as like a
The Invasion of the Champions.
yeah. But
But so I'm curious. I'm curious to see what moves Wes makes. And as I alluded to earlier, you know, he's good friends with CT. He and Devin are good friends. He and Anisa are good friends. He
yeah,
and Teresa have partnered in the past. He and Nani are friends.
for sure.
But he and Big T are friends. Like I'm interested to see like he knows a lot of people in this house.
Yeah.
And he has familiarity with someone that is classified as a rookie, but
No,
is
totally.
kind of not a rookie. He has a history with her. So I'm curious to see what West does. I'm like, this is it's an interesting landscape for West to be inserted into.
Nope, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. Wes definitely is one of the favorites to win this season because he's one of the favorites to win any season that he's on. But that normally happens because you assume that it's going to be someone from the vet side. But as mentioned, there's a lot of rookies on this season. So we're kind of going to go through. I'll just list who they are. And if you know who the person is, we'll stop and we'll discuss. And if we don't know, we'll just keep going. Sound good?
Sounds great. Yeah.
First person up is Amber. There's two Ambers. So this we'll just say Amber B, which could be Amber B for Amber from Big Brother. And I will say I am very happy to see Amber from Big Brother on the challenge.
Why is that, Sheldon?
She's just a lovely human being. She's good peoples. She's a good hang. I think she'll be very good on the challenge. She's a great addition to the challenge cast. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking up the cast of Big Brother that she was on.
Okay.
And so she was on the season with Cody and Derek, Cody being Paulie's brother.
Yep.
Frankie Grande, brother of Ariana, was on it. I co-signed on that. And Nicole Franzel, as well, who not a huge fan of, having now experienced her a little bit. Those are the only names I recognize.
Amber is a solid player. Amber is dope as hell. And yeah, good addition. Now, next up is Amber Martinez from Are You the One? No idea who that is.
Sorry, cool. Amber Martinez.
Welcome to the show, Amber.
We wish you the best of luck.
Gabby Allen from Love Island / Celebrity Big Brother UK. Sure.
This is a very broad brush to paint with. I assume she's Georgia 2.0, but I don't know. She's from Liverpool. She's from Liverpool, so she'll have either a Liverpudlian or an accent from the rural.
Sure. I'll take it.
That's all I know.
Joseph Allen from America's Got Talent. Yeah, I got nothing.
I swear to our listeners, there's going to be people that we know.
Really? Do you know this Leo Rush person?
Do I ever? Hold on. I'm doing some quick Googling. Joseph Allen is a singer and rapper from Killeen, Texas.
Okay. There's not a rapping contest on the challenge, so good luck. That's what.
Good luck to you, sir.
This WWE wrestler, I'm guessing you know this person?
Yes, I do. Let's talk about Leo Rush. He's a former WWE wrestler.
Okay.
He is, all wrestlers are very athletic.
Correct.
Say what you will about the quality of the entertainment content, but they are athletic people.
Mm-hmm.
Leo Rush is super wiry, but he's not going to be very tall. Mm-hmm. I'd be surprised if he's over 5'9". He might be shorter. But very acrobatic, renowned for his talking ability, good on the stick, as they say. He gives good promos. But here's the thing, cutting a promo works if you're trying to piss off a crowd of 20,000 people. Maybe not the best skill for a house of 30 people where you're trying to win people over to vote in your favor. And notably, Leo Rush was ultimately fired by the WWE after he had a really rocky time where he had, in wrestling parlance, a lot of heat, where a lot of the veterans disliked him for being cocky and arrogant.
Okay.
His rep was that he did not appreciate the respect, he wasn't respectful of the kind of respect you're supposed to pay to veterans. Mm-hmm. But he also argued that they insisted that he carry their bags. And as a young African-American man, he felt that was not a good look and he wanted to be a role model for his son.
Okay.
So
There's layers here.
there's layers here. I'm just saying Leo Rush, very athletic, has a lot of charisma,
Mm-hmm.
but might not have a great personality for the
The
house.
challenge. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, someone who does have some personality for the house that will be back into the challenge, but was the big boy challenge because she was on Champs versus Stars, or sorry, Champs versus Pros. Also was on Celebrity Big Brother, but most famous for being a U.S. Olympian. Miss Lolo Jones is back on your MTV screens.
I'm
I'm
so
happy to see
excited.
Lolo. She's great TV. Um, I'm interested to see if she's learned anything from her previous appearance on the challenge at all, but I'm going to guess not.
Mhm.
So it's going to be pretty funny to see Lolo Jones back on. She's good TV. That's all I'll say. If she was good TV on Champs versus Pros, where it's like you don't really have as much as the house drama, but yet she found a way to create the house drama in a situation where there shouldn't really be that much drama. I'm interested to see what happens when you're put into a house with all these people.
I'm very interested to see what she does because let's be real. Lolo Jones is the best athlete in challenge history. Like just
No,
automatically.
no, that's fair for sure.
Like without having seen an episode, the best athlete of all time.
Yeah,
But her political game, her social game,
not good.
ugh. And like,
Right.
how can I put this? When we last saw her, she was a virgin. And like everyone's
Oh,
choices are
okay.
their own.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like a plot point because she had some sexual tension with Jordan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And I'm not sure, like her choices are her own, and I don't mean to criticize her, but it can often be a very sexually charged house.
Hmm.
And if you don't have a lot of experience in that end, that could be a distraction.
Okay. Okay.
Is that
Interesting.
fair comment? You get
I
what I'm
don't know.
saying?
I just think that maybe it's the other way. Maybe,
That's true. That's a
there
fair
is no
point.
sexual tension because you're used to not having sex.
Yeah. And maybe that will
I don't
give her
know.
greater focus. And also, we don't
Maybe.
know where she is in her life. Like, she might be married. She might be in a committed relationship. Like, who's to say? Who
Who
knows? I have
knows?
not been keeping up with Lolo Jones.
I'm sure we will find out, though. I'm sure we will find out.
The other thing I'll say about Lolo Jones, though, is yes, definitely the greatest athlete in challenge history. Like, we know this as a fact. But doesn't that put a gigantic target on her back? Like,
True.
can't you see every other woman in the house being like, I
I
am going
wouldn't
to
want to
get
go
that
against her.
fucking Olympian out of this house
Yeah,
before.
I would not want to go against her. No, no chance.
No.
No
She would
chance
be getting the ejector seat as fast as I could if I was any other woman in that house.
for sure. Meshi Harris, musician from X on the Beach,
From X on the Beach, but also, hold on,
a
he
musician.
is in an American R&B and pop indie group called 4EY The Future.
Okay.
Um,
Download now on Spotify.
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Sure. Uh,
Um, they appeared. Oh no, he was not on it. One of them was on 106 in Park, which is very exciting to me. And
Shout out to Terrence and Roxy and AJ and Free.
oh, AJ and Free were the best. And he opened up for Meek Mill at Lincoln University. I don't know about
Okay.
that. Yeah, okay.
All right. Sure.
Sure. So
Sure.
he's a musician.
Sounds
That
like we could have some performances in the house. Why not? Sure.
apparently Leo Rush is a musician as well.
Who isn't a musician these days, right? Heck, if we're podcasters, right? Why not?
You know what happens when two guys meet for the first time, right?
No,
They start a podcast.
that's a horrible joke. I don't know where you got that joke from. That's a horrible joke.
Thank you. I
Like
didn't
I didn't
write it.
even like. I hope not, because I know you to be a better writer than that.
Thank you.
Moving on, Nam Vo from Ultimate Beastmaster.
So
Sure.
there'll be he's going to be very athletic because Ultimate Beastmaster is like American Ninja Warrior, right? Like it's a lot of very
That
physical
just made me think
challenges.
of Ninja. That just made me
Yeah.
think of Ninja. Let's move on. Natalie Anderson from Survivor and Amazing Race. I saw the promo where her and Jay are clicking because obviously Jay was just happy to have someone else from Survivor on the show. Natalie also, represents as this is a season where you can tell they made a conscious effort to be very diverse.
Yeah. Which
So
is great.
yeah, for sure, totally. Um, and I'm always interested to see how Survivor / Amazing Race people do on the show because I think that show is much more akin to the challenge than something like Big Brother. But we'll see. We'll see. Olivia quote Liv from Shipwrecked. Not sure who that is either. I've never seen Shipwrecked. Don't even know what it is. But either way, challenge debuts Wednesday, December 9th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't you dare. I'm joking. But
Before
either
we
way,
go,
I'm jacked up to see
I'm
this
very excited.
season. Nothing excites me more than when the first season of the challenge hits. It's great. Can't wait.
I want to know, do you have any predictions for this season? It doesn't have to be
No,
necessarily who's going to win, but just like, do you have, beyond things like Josh and Nelson are going to be idiots, do you have any?
no. I love going into the challenge. Like even in preparation for this pod, there are things that I didn't watch because like why I don't want to watch that. I just want to watch a show. Like I think there's like some preview episode or something
It
that
airs
airs on
tomorrow night.
MTV.
Monday night, there's a preview episode.
I don't even
We're
want to watch
recording on
that.
Sunday, so
I don't think I want to watch that because like I just want to go into the episode. Like I don't like when they leak parts of the episode online. I don't want to watch that, so I avoid it. I get why they do it so that you get people to watch it, but I'm already gonna watch, and I want to sit there and be surprised while I watch the show. So I get that it's not for me. I get why they do it as someone who works in production. I get it. You put it out to get new viewers to be like, oh, what's this? I want to watch it. But for me, I don't watch those things. I want to just watch the show.
I like it when I like a really good trailer. Like when they do it like a
For sure.
movie trailer.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
still
That's always at the first episode.
the Battle of the X's season 2 that starts off with DM talking about like the importance of like going after what you want in life because it was filmed after that season was filmed was when Knight and DM died.
Okay.
And like to me that's still like such an incredible trailer, like just like beautifully shot, beautifully
Yeah.
edited. You didn't really learn anything
Mm-hmm.
about like what was going to happen, but like it really tugged at the heartstrings. Like I love me a good trailer like that. Like to me that's what I want.
Yeah.
And like I do appreciate when they tell us who's in it because it is intriguing. Like to me, having Leo Rush and Lolo Jones, like those are intriguing new people.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, I don't. And like we should say, like I'm sure that there's listeners who love Survivor, so they know or love Shipwrecked and have like greater familiarity with some of these people than we do.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm intrigued by this cast, and like we didn't really dive into it, but I'm intrigued to see what the house is like without Johnny and Jordan, who are two of the best competitors of all time, and also two very strong personalities, and
Mm-hmm.
how their absence is going to affect people. Like we already talked about Leroy, it's going to change how Tory plays the game. It's going to play
Mm-hmm.
how CT and Wes play the game, right? Like subtracting those two, and also Kara and Polly are still not back. Like those are
I'm
four.
fine with that.
I'm fine with all four of those being gone, but it's definitely I think addition by subtraction, and like makes for a whole new dynamic on a show that's all about dynamics.
Sure.
So I'm intrigued and I'm excited.
Totally agree. Totally excited for a new season of the challenge. Nothing ever gets me more hyped than the first episode of the season of the challenge because it always comes out with a banger. Never disappoints.
And
Never.
I'm excited to speak to you at least once a week. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to another season of You Killed It.
Yes, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure.
Where can the people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And of course, like and subscribe to the pod. Wherever you get your podcasts, You Killed It. You can find it on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, pardon me, Spotify, Google Play, all that fun stuff. And YouTube, like and subscribe, YouTube videos.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. I'm currently not covering sports. For those of you that cover Twitter, you've probably noticed I'm covering a lot of legal issues and things about civil liberties in Canada. If that's not your bag, I'm sorry, but that's just the breaks right now.
There's some serious stuff going on in the world.
And I find myself covering it. But I will be tweeting about the challenge. And I think this season, I'm going to be able to live tweet a lot. So you might want to stick around for me live tweeting on Wednesday nights. I think I'll be able to make that happen more often than not.
That'll be fun for sure. That will be fun for sure.
It'll be great. Until, I guess, Thursday, this was You Killed It.
You Killed It.